Welcome back to the Michigan Business Beat, brought to you on the Michigan Business Network. Chris Holman at our downtown studios in Lansing, Michigan. We're going to go over to the campus of MSU, or really close to the campus of MSU, to spend time with Professor and our good friend, Dr. Ballard. And you know, it is always good to see you, Charlie, and particularly in these times when there's so damn many things going on. We need you to weed some of them out.
Well, it's always good to see you, Chris, and let's try to weed some of them out.
All right, let's do that. Let's start with our last Michigan Future Business Index, which you know, for the last 3.5 years, the number one issue for business has been talent, acquiring it, retaining it, right? Yeah. So just marginally, it fell into second place to inflation, and in particular, wage inflation.
Well, of course, those two things are tightly connected to each other because we have a very tight labor market, and that means it's hard to find people. And if you want to keep the people you have or attract new people, there's been a lot of upward pressure on wages. Really, you've got inflation from a whole variety of sources. You've got the supply chain mess ups associated with COVID. And you've got people with plenty of money in their pocket. And, quite honestly, I think we really overdid it with those tax cuts a few years ago. And we certainly paid stimulus checks to a lot of people who didn't need them. And that means that fiscal policy is stomping on the accelerator. And that's going to put upward pressure on prices, especially if the supply chain is messed up. But the other thing about the labor market, and I think this is a story that has not been told nearly enough, 14 years ago was when the front end of the baby boom started being eligible for Social Security and started retiring. And in that 14 years or so, the percentage of adult Americans who are in the labor force has gone down by 5 percentage points. Now, maybe that doesn't sound like a lot, but it's up close to 15 million workers. In other words, if we hadn't had all those retirements, we'd have a lot more workers than we have now. And so, and then of course, the ones who are retiring are your most experienced people. And that means that the problem that businesses have faced for years of how do I find the workers with the skills that I need? That problem is even worse now, and yes, it's true that there's upward pressure on wages. So for a lot of businesses, it's a very tight situation.
Well, it's interesting because I've been pounding on the fact that our worker shortage is a lot due to just arithmetic. There are way more people leaving the workforce than we've created coming into it, and the birth rate and all those things are now playing havoc.
Yeah, the birth rate has been lower than it was in the baby boom for now 60 years almost. Yep. And of course, immigration is something that is a possible solution, but the politics of immigration, as you know, are incredibly toxic. And so I don't see that that's going to solve the problem. Thus, my view, for better or worse, is that we're going to face really tight labor markets for the foreseeable future.
In my mind, it's got to be a combination of immigration policy reform, and it's not opening the Katie bar the door. It's not that. It is, let's be discretionary about that, and also automation. I think you've got to see technology kick into gear here to replace people.
Well, technology, of course, we've seen all sorts of technological changes driven by many different factors. But now I think you're seeing a lot of businesses thinking even harder about how can we get the job done. And in many cases, that would be some machine that would save on labor.
Yeah. All right, so tell me a little bit about where we're at in the worldview economically.
Well, my crystal ball is cloudy, and cloudier now than it often is because we've got so many things going on. the Federal Reserve faces an extremely delicate task. What they want to do is take the steam out of the economy without tipping us into a recession. So far, we are not in a recession. You know, you heard the story last week about 2 consecutive quarters of declining real GDP, but that's a rule of thumb that some people use that is not really, that doesn't tell us that we're in a recession. And in fact, you know, in the same time that we heard about that, we had last month more than 500,000 jobs created. So you've got a lot of growth factors, but you've got the Fed trying to slow things down. Meanwhile, you've got a lot of international tension: Russia, Ukraine, China, Taiwan, so it's. And then on top of that, you've got climate-related catastrophes. You know, the latest one, these floods in eastern Kentucky. So I wish I could say, okay, here's exactly what's going to happen.
Charlie, that's why I called.
Yeah, I know. But if I were a business, I would say expect the unexpected, and prepare for contingencies.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Charlie, it's always fascinating spending time with you, my friend. Thanks for your insights. Charles Ballard, professor, and you know what, PhD, we're also going to have you on here quicker than we normally do, because I know you've got a major announcement coming up, so we'll look forward to that.
Okay.
All right, buddy. I'm Chris Holman. You're watching the Michigan Business Beat on the Michigan Business Network. We'll be back.